Thank you, Chairwoman Maloney, and members of the committee for holding this important roundtable. My name is Ana Nunez, and I worked in sales for the Washington football team for almost 4 years. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my colleagues, both women and men, who are here before you, survivors of the abuse and sexual harassment that we endured during our time working for the Washington football team. I am also here as a representative of the dozens more that cannot be here. The NFL did not protect us when they needed to, but they still have a chance to make it right. The NFL preaches about inspiring change, but that only seems to be the case when it's convenient for them. I hope today makes a difference, and I hope with Congress's involvement, we can achieve some accountability for the team and the NFL. I was employed at the Washington football team from March of 2015 to January of 2019. I was 23 when I began working there in the sales department. During my time with the team, I was sexually harassed by multiple male employees, including top executives. Often these male employees had a reputation for mistreating young female employees. Everyone knew about their mistreatment and even saw it happening, but no one did anything. When I became a victim and tried to report it, no one did anything about it. I won't describe every instance of sexual harassment I experienced during my time there because it was almost a part of my everyday experience. But I want to share some examples with you that really stuck with me. In 2017, while I was working at what was formerly known as Redskins Park, I endured sexual harassment by 2 senior-level employees. The first was the senior vice president of communications who came to my desk and commented on my jeans I was wearing in a very inappropriate way. This executive had a reputation for making inappropriate comments about female colleagues' attire and their bodies, just as he did with me, but he was so high up in the organization that we were afraid to say anything. He did this in front of everyone, and no one seemed to care. Around the same time, I was also sexually harassed by the director of pro personnel. I connected with this individual because he was of Latino background, and there were only a handful of non-white employees there. What started as friendly and professional conversations quickly turned into him texting inappropriate messages that made me feel extremely uncomfortable. In one exchange, he told me I looked nice and mentioned the things he would do to me. I responded back via text and told him to never say things like that to me again. I was afraid to push back like that because he was more senior than me, and it shouldn't have been my responsibility. But I knew there was no real HR, and no one would have done anything to make him stop, so I had to stand up for myself. This man had a well-known history of sexual harassment with other employees and interns, so I also felt ashamed that I became another victim of his. These were the times that I felt hopeful there would be a change, only to be disappointed. In early summer 2018, with the arrival of new leadership, it felt like a horrible workplace culture could finally be addressed. I was encouraged to speak to the assistant legal counsel for the team about my experience with sexual harassment, which I did. I sat in his office, told him the stories, saw him write in his notebook, and I accepted the tissues he offered me when I became emotionally overwhelmed that someone might finally do something to change the workplace culture. But I was wrong. Nothing came from me telling him what I had gone through. Even worse, the sexual harassment continued. Later that summer at training camp in Richmond, I was with colleagues, including the head trainer. After an after-work gathering, when we got up to leave, he had grabbed my wrist and asked, "What are we going to talk about us?" I think I asked, "What about us?" There is no us. I had never had a conversation with this man before. I felt ashamed and embarrassed because once again, I felt the fear of retaliation and the shame of being sexually harassed. Again, I felt like there was no point in reporting him because no one had been held accountable before. I stand before you here today, reliving these difficult memories to try to make a change for other women at the team, in the league, the industry, and the workplace. There are just some of the stories that the Washington football team and the NFL have tried so hard to hide. I want to shine a light on the toxic workplace that we endured and to plead with the NFL to release the report from the Wilkinson investigation, holding the Washington football accountable here and sending the message that this is the type of harassment and abuse that will not be tolerated, will impact the many women and men who endure similar harassment, not only in sports, but also in workplaces across the country.
Ms. Eagles, thank you, Ms. Eagleson. You are now